Yeah. So here we are, Christian. So we were talking about recompiling.
Yeah, like a source code, like from a website. We're talking about Starfield creation and how we're going to recompile the website
Are
because
we?
the code is broken. No, we did, but we have to do that too. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, there's one thing of recoding a website and getting it back running, which I would really appreciate. But then isn't that interesting that we named it Starfield Creations?
Why? I mean, it's interesting, but what? It's not like we had like other names lined up. We had a lineup of names, and we choose that. This is the only one that came, right?
Exactly. But I find like, the retrospect view of sitting here talking to you right now, um, that a lot of things that I sort of knew that have become more tangible. And so like Starfield Creations was a cool name, but when you really get into what we're talking about, I mean, what are the stars, the luminaries, and the intelligences, and you were talking about the universal code that we all carry, getting more in contact with that versus our
When
ego. Huh?
when was I talking about the universal code we're all carrying? When are
Just
you
a
really?
minute ago. Just a minute ago, you were saying that, you're recompiling and like you can't lie to the universe. And so,
Oh, yeah, and you put it in other words. I mean, it's the same
uh-huh,
thing, but I mean, yeah, yeah. I never said what you said, but it's kind of the same thing. So
yeah,
yeah.
source code. So, what is the source code within us? And the only way that I've learned through my life to get in closer in touch with that is that becomes the imperative. And so the ego keeps diminishing. The personal desires, the need. Well, this is actually what I wanted to talk about, and I want your thoughts on it. Like, we kind of touched on it the last time we talked. I think it was in the second part that I forgot to record. But how there's this drive inside human beings, and it's mostly an ego drive to be recognized and to be affirmed and to see your work prospering in the outer world. Um, and yet, where I'm at now, maybe that's my recoding, is that coming to a deeper comprehension that we don't need to be affirmed. We are actually powerful, even if we're not writing books or making movies or doing anything. That just by being, that energy is having an effect. Do you get where I'm going with that?
Yeah, yeah, of course I do.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what we spoke that people usually it's more pronounced with people close to their end of life
Uh-huh.
when they get this almost psychosis that they want to understand what their existence meant and what they're leaving, you know, behind. So I always find that ugly and weird and like something that it's very hard to see, especially on a loved one. But I guess even younger people are lost in this materialism. And but this is like, or we went through this, and a lot of people is talking about this, so it's nothing new. But yeah,
No, no, it's nothing new. And it probably is very linked to age, because when you're younger, you've got so much going on in the body it's like the hormones, drives. I mean, there are things coded into the body that take one along their life. And there are things that we don't really have control over. So when you settle down and you settle more into the being that you are, you start to perceive life differently. And the things that were once important don't seem so important anymore. But there's this aspect happening with me right now where I don't even know. Let me try to find the right words for it. Well, you know me, right? I've always had a lot of drive to produce,
Yeah.
to do, to talk, to write, all of these things. And I find that fairly absent in me right now. And it's a subtle thing because the ego wants to stand up again and say, no, notice me, look at me, look what I'm doing, right? And then I'm just like, but I don't have the drive for it. So it's more satisfying in a way for me right now just to be on the land and work on my garden and just do really simple things. And I find myself quite often without thought. And in a way, it's kind of disconcerting, right? Like these big blank spaces. I think you have that happen to you.
Yep, and I think it's awesome to walk around without thoughts. It's the
Yeah,
most awesome feeling.
yeah. And you know, it doesn't even have to be like mystical or, you know, awesome. It doesn't even have to be awesome. It just is.
Yeah, and it's not mystical. There is, I mean, it is mystical, but it's not, and it like you said, just is mystical or not, or doesn't matter. We're not using words. We're not using that many words today, right? Let's use fewer words today.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah. I, I I mean, words always fall short from expressing the inner reality. You know, I started writing a piece and I haven't finished it. It's been sitting there for a month. But one of the things I just happened across, because I was looking up word definitions, was the word Damascus. And this big treatise on it. And basically, the guy was saying that when man first used writing, like when he first learned how to put thoughts down on whatever cuneiform tablets or writing, that was the first technology. And it really, I'd never thought that before. And I thought about it, and it is like before, perhaps like Gigi says or other people talk about, we were living in a state of communion. So we weren't so concerned about words and expressing, and so I could kind of see it as a technology.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, actually, there were some cases of that wolf boy that was living with wolves that or with stray dogs. That was a real case,
Mm-hmm.
and he never learned how to speak, and he never, even if he was like 8 or 11 when he was brought into back into society, and he could never integrate, learn how to speak, or. But I wonder how would we go about it if with no speech or writing? How will you form a thought? Like you will have thoughts, but it will be just images or feelings. Will be a lot more gut instinct, or I think there has to be some good parts in a society without words, right? Just
I would
like
I would definitely think so. And I've had like brief memories of that. Like the memory of my forest friend. There was no talking.
okay,
I mean, given that it's a memory, it came through images and everything. it was silent, and it was what I remember the most about that was the running of the river, the sound of the water moving. And that seemed to carry the message in a way I can't really put to words. I'd have to reach into deep poetry or something too. But there was no talking. There was just the feeling and the experience.
Yeah.
And I think it's, well, how many people ever get out of their thought process, their mind loops long enough to have an experience like that?
Hopefully more and more people.
Hopefully. Again, using words, and it's why I somehow intuited through experience over the past decade, maybe, of communion. Like, and perhaps if they take down the internet, or perhaps if things go the way we see they're trying to drive them, we'll be forced into that again, but probably at a different resolution.
I'm thinking how cats make these elaborate plans, how to wake you up or how to bring you into the kitchen to feed them, and they do all this without, they don't have words, so they have to put these thoughts in order. How are they doing it? Like, they imagine the sequence beforehand, or how are they coming up, or any animal for that reason, a dog, or
Yeah, speaking of
or
the dude, the dude
a
just jumped on the,
yeah.
you talking, and the dude jumped on the kitchen table and he's drinking his milk. He already knew you were going to talk about him, and here he comes. But that's interesting, because I had this flash yesterday. Like, I don't even know where it came from. I wanted to write it like as sort of a satire, as a comment. Like, what about the feline beings? Why did the Egyptians reverence cats?
Yeah, but do you think if there was a feline being, do you think they didn't have language?
Yes, that's what I was flashing on. Like, because I remember,
And
like,
they're just hissing and purring all day?
no, I mean, I saw it when I was with you in Romania, and I also had an experience with, dude, he's now opened the drawer and he's gonna throw everything on the floor. Oh, well. He doesn't like me talking about this. Um, like, I had an experience like many years ago when I was still working with Claudia and some other ladies, and we were rescuing the felines. I don't even know how to describe it, but my body literally, like literally, that I could feel it and see it, turned into a feline human, not like a cat on four legs, but a feline human. Have you ever had that experience?
Mm, in a different way. I did.
No, I'm going to mispronounce this, so you have to correct me. When we went to the Valley of the Golden Thrones, say it in Romanian.
Uh, Valley of the Golden Thrones. Valea Tronului Aurii.
Huh? I can never pronounce it, Christian. Sare Mechuga or Sare.
Sarmi Zegetusa.
Yeah, that.
That word. Yeah.
But like when we were walking around the ruins there, and we weren't walking together, but I had a very distinct feeling of a feline race, and how persecuted they were, and how they could go in between realities. Like they could come into this reality and leave this reality easily.
I think that's a skill many beings have. It's a common skill, perhaps. So yeah, but I know what you're saying. So where are they now?
Well, it's very difficult to say where they are now. I had this feeling, and it's just a feeling, it doesn't really mean anything, that they're here right now. Just we can't see them. But they were curtailed from participating, let's say, in what's going on. And I know they're very warrior-like. And I don't think the bad guys like them. But I mean, I can't really say much on that because it's like, it's my own perception, and I've never researched it or looked into it and see if there's other information out there about that. But obviously,
So you think they had their own cycle somewhere in this universe? They had their own cycle, and they finished their cycle, and now they are helping others. Or what's your thinking?
well, I feel like I'm gonna just like wing it here, okay, because I haven't thought it through. It's like there's a call right now. I mean, we are in a great battle. It's a great spiritual battle, and however you see the earth plane, or whether it's geocentric or everything is emanating from the 3D, from above and down below, it doesn't really matter, is that there's a call, a universal call, that kind of like all hands on deck, like humans need help. I mean,
Well, that's for sure. Yeah. So where is the cavalry?
Where is it? It's us.
Yeah.
It's us.
Okay.
It's us developing to a fuller potential. And that's kind of what I was talking about, like this dance between the ego wanting to drive the human body versus the spiritual aspect or the source code that is so powerful. And being able to allow that to come through, and that's that part of letting go of the persona, the ego, the personal desires, and just being present with it, being able to stay in presence. And it's a challenge. I don't think it ever ends, actually. I think we're always dancing.
Like forever and ever?
I don't know about forever and ever, because I don't know what forever and ever actually is, but but yeah, in a way you could say that, right? Like, what are we?
Like in a children's book, like in a children's book, like the prince got the girl and they lived happily ever after, or forever and ever. Like, what does that mean?
Well, that's actually a poignant question, right? Do I mean, living happily forever and after that doesn't necessarily mean there won't be changes or challenges. Just perhaps the ability to navigate them much better than most people are doing these days.
Do you think we can resume all we want to know about spirituality with children books, children's stories, stories for children?
I know you've probably read more children's books lately than, I mean, because I know,
Lately, no,
not lately, but I
not
mean,
lately.
I know that you were in a certain way, because if they're not like they're doing now, where they're putting propaganda into children's stories, but maybe the old classics, yeah, they were teaching stories. But see, that's the thing, Kristen, it's like keeping that beautiful innocence of a child alive within the adult form, that curiosity, and it's true, when people get older, they get more set in their ways and they don't even know what that is anymore. And that to me is a slow death. Well,
So what was that thing, that advice that you should always ask an elder if you have a problem? Was that good advice, or?
well, I would say in traditional or tribal times, or the time we were talking about earlier when humans were more connected to nature and could like just had that sense of connectedness and oneness, I would think an elder was probably very valuable.
Okay, and not so much today.
No, I mean, you better be discerning who you're going to ask for advice from, and there's so many. I mean, it's really actually fascinating if you detach your emotions from it, is like how well they took like New Age, right? The first, budding of consciousness, and turned it into bullshit, just think good thoughts, child. I mean, they took it down to such a simplistic view, and I feel like many people are caught in that. That's why they can't look at the dark side. But the dark side is where the power is. The dark side is, integrating your own darkness and going through suffering. Those are the aspects that really do strip away the ego. And we talked about it before. I know that, as long as we're embodied, there is an egoic identification, but it has to be in its right place. It's like the little self. You are the vessel through which spirit speaks analogy.
Yeah, unless the spirit and the body completely merge together in one entity.
Yeah, but maybe that only happens at death.
Maybe.
I mean, because otherwise you probably wouldn't be existent in the form you're in. No matter what, you're in a body form, male, remain, I mean, I know you don't relate to yourself as your labels and your, but to some degree you do, and I do.
Yeah, to some degree.
And that's another part of, my own thing, is like, that's okay too. There's days when maybe isn't happy and full of joy. There's days when challenges come forward and things you have to deal with that maybe you don't want to deal with.
So you scrub them under the carpet.
Is that what you do? Oh my God. It's called sweep them under the carpet. But anyways.
Sweep them, whatever.
Yeah, maybe you put them aside, sure, but they're still there.
No, I was joking, of course. It's like,
Well, I'm laughing, so I know you're joking. Yeah. Are you really going to put Starfield Creations back up?
well,
Are you going to sweep it under
I
the
have
carpet?
it's under the carpet right now, but I have to, yeah. Someday
Someday.
I will.
Okay. When you're inspired, or you just go, I got to take care of this right now.
Now the problem with if you want to get technical with PrestaShop, because they don't actually make it easier to upgrade the way we did. So the whole server was upgraded
Mm-hmm.
with whatever software is running in the background, and the PHP version and a lot of other things. And now the PrestaShop is kind of very fussy about it. So we may need a new install or even migrate to a different platform. But then the question is, are we going to lose? Is it going to be compatible with our database or not? Or so it's not easy. But it all started with Earth and Path because they are on the same server. So,
Yeah,
but in some way, it's gonna get fixed, like everything does in the end.
like you always said, right? Nothing's impossible. It sounds like a metaphor for humanity. They're trying to upgrade us. And every time they make an upgrade in anything, I mean, it's insane what I see going on in the tech world right now. And it's not because I'm aware of how code's written or anything, but they move something on different sites, it doesn't matter, and everything fucks up. You know, just even shopping sites that I go to, they're messed up. They make mistakes all the time. And that didn't really happen before. So who knows what they're doing in the background and what new regulations the dark ones are trying to install.
Yeah. Have you seen how high gold is?
Say that again, ask.
The price of gold. Have you seen how high it got?
Yeah, it went up above 2000. It got up to 269. I haven't looked for a day or two. Well, the market's closed on the weekend. Yeah.
I think it's gonna go a lot higher. I mean, I don't know. It
Yeah.
has the potential to go a lot higher. So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
But I mean, like all things, because they do control things, with inflation, like even if it goes, well, if it stays in the where it is now, inflation's already eaten it up. Purchasing power. I mean, it's expensive. It's getting,
Yeah.
it's, the peso, the dollar to the peso is at around 17 right now. And that's down
Oh,
from
so
22. So you can just transfer that what things cost in dollars in Mexico right now. Prices have definitely gone up. I bought
are
it.
getting priced out of existence.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
So what did you buy?
oh, I just bought a bag of cement, which I hadn't bought since I finished the house. And it used to be 160 pesos at 22 pesos to the dollar. It's 260 now at 18 to the dollar. So it's quite a substantial increase for one bag of cement.
From El Volcan?
No, no, I bought it from somebody on the highway.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So, I
From
mean,
a beat down, a guy that has a beat down truck with bricks and bags of cement.
yeah. Well, actually, I just pulled in and they threw a bag of cement in the back of the Jeep. But yeah, I'm just doing little work here around, and yeah, I'm gonna cobblestone around the house in the back and the front.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not like I have endless amounts of money, so it's little by little by little right now.
Yeah, you're always resourceful.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see what the universe determines for me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know yet. Meanwhile, like I said earlier when we were talking, it's just like all the other stuff, it's like beauty. Beauty is like, and beauty can be growing your own food. Beauty could be planting a vine that flowers on your wall. Um, it's just, I was saying with my neighbor that came over, who just like people do when they sit here, they're like, I just want to stay here. It's so beautiful. And I see still a lot of things I want to do, of course. And I thought, yeah, it's a sanctuary. Okay, I'll make it a beautiful sanctuary. That's what I'll do. That's what I'm doing. It's not what I'm gonna do. It's what I'm doing. I'm just like, I buy one or two plants every week, and today I'm going to line out some raised beds. I've got tons of seeds in the ground, and then I'm going to have to go into grasshopper control. I don't know how that's gonna work out this year, but I'm learning.
You'll get the hang of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just that the really good product for eradicating them through their reproductive system so they can't reproduce has been off the market for a year and a half. And I don't know why. The companies just keep saying they can't get their supplies.
Was that organic or?
It's something, yeah, I mean, it's a fungus that the grasshoppers eat,
Oh,
and then it just affects them so they can't reproduce. And that seems like the most humane way to,
yeah.
and people say, well, why don't you spray insecticide? And I go, I can't. It's like, that to me is
Yeah, like
human once again.
Monsanto Roundup or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it just, sure, it'd be easy. I could eradicate them, but I can't
Yeah,
do it.
but you would eradicate everything.
Yeah, and I throw off the balance, so I'm working on balance, and I'll figure it out, I mean, I have more energy this year to put more attention to it, so I'll figure it out. But,
How
people,
about slugs? You have slugs?
no, I
Or
don't.
groundhogs?
A few squirrels and ants. This first year I've had ants, like leaf cutting ants.
Ants? Oh, leaf cutters. Oh,
Yeah.
that's not funny.
And
Yeah.
they're not in my property, they're in my neighbors, but they make it over here, so I can't find their holes. But I've got okay. I had some ants that were eating my sprouts, and they were underneath the seeding shed, so I just poured vinegar down through all the cracks in the pavers, and I figured they're not gonna like vinegar. I don't know. So far they're gone.
You need like that animal with a big snout that eats a lot of ants. I don't know where you can
Oh,
get that
ant
from
eater.
Africa.
An ant
Yeah,
eater. Yeah, somehow I don't have the holes on my property. That's the thing, Christian. It's like if I could find where the ants are coming up from, but they're coming from my neighbors. And I can't ask her if I can go over and inspect her property, so. But it's interesting because people have this idyllic view of growing their own food organically, and they don't realize how much work it is. Not that it's hard
yes,
work, but it's constant.
it is.
Yeah. Like they say, you have to
And it's
take
very,
care.
it is expensive in the end. If you factor the time and everything, I mean,
Yeah.
it's also rewarding and you feel when you eat something from your garden, it's like it tastes a lot better than everything you ever tasted, but it is hard work.
But it's a wonderful metaphor for life, to take care of your garden. I
Yeah,
mean, there's work involved in it, but it can be really, like you said, rewarding work. I mean, some days I just sit and I look and like, okay, come on, seeds, come up. And then I see them come up through the ground and I'm like, okay, now grow. Today I'm gonna put it in some potatoes.
like in the ground or in
Mm, I've
trash cans or
I've got these actually special made potato sacks. They're dark, kind of porous. Amber gave them to me, so I'm gonna use
okay.
those. Yeah.
So she had them because she used.
She got into a very
them?
big period of wanting to grow food for the kids so they could see where their food came from. But she doesn't have time, so she bailed on it and gave me.
Okay. And what do you do with the bags? We just bury them, or?
No, you just fill them with dirt and you layer the potatoes in, and as the sprouts come up, you remember how the potatoes grow? So as they
Yeah.
start coming up, you just keep putting more dirt, more dirt, more dirt, and then they make all their potatoes. I did it last
Yeah,
year.
potatoes are one of the easiest things to
Yeah.
grow, right? Potatoes.
Also, grasshoppers love them. Last year, they ate all my potatoes. They were really destructive.
Yeah, I wonder what people did like 5,000 years ago. How did they tackle the grasshoppers?
Well, you know, the biblical stuff of the locust, right? To me, it's just a
Yeah, I
sign.
mean, there was a famine every other year, and people died of starvation. So that was true. So maybe
Yeah,
they didn't delve. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah.
Now
But I
that, now
don't
that
know.
you
It is the,
reminded me, it was not fun. Yeah.
no, no. So, you know, to me, it's a sign of imbalance in a way. So working not just with physical labor and tilling the soil or whatever, and, you know, is also a fact of energy balance here. You know, like,
Okay.
you know, nature does.
So maybe you can become the shaman of that little village where your house is.
I don't know, the shaman. No, I don't know. We'll see. It's an adventure. Okay. It's a quiet adventure for the most part, but it's an adventure. But there is an impulse, no, in human beings to have plants around them and, you know, like go out to the forest or get out of the cities, like really get out of the cities. And
Yeah, especially in the more connected you are with everything, the more you want to be with your hand in the dirt and be in a forest or sea or river or whatever. But because for many people, I don't see that impulse. They're happy with their phones and cars and offices and
are they happy or are they just like,
no, they're not happy. They're zombified.
right? So they've shut off a big part of themselves.
Even their dream, their vacation dreams, because you hear them. I want to go to this place in Greece. There is this nice beach, but there is still a resort with all inclusive. There is nothing wild. Never ever nothing wild. There is a resort, or there is a you go to Sinaia, which in Romania is a nice mountain resort, or everything has to be. They have to be insured to be safe, and their pleasures fulfilled, and they have to have Wi-Fi, and they have to have cold cocktails and this and that, and very few people want to get lost and sleep in the in bear country or sleep in a wild environment and struggle to make a fire or go hungry one day because it was raining. Everything was soaked. You couldn't make a fire. So nobody actually, or very few people dream of was actually real. They Most people want their control environment to go with them. So
Mhm. So when you're saying that, like, there's a path, a narrow path call it the way. Perhaps some of us are just tasked with opening that way more. And perhaps at some point in this mad rush of chaos and zombies and everything, the few will have to find their way back. The other thing that people can't deal with is loneliness, solitude.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I so enjoy loneliness and find joy and beauty in loneliness. And for other people, their worst nightmare is to be lonely.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's a split society. We're very, we have to recompile the whole society. It's all broken.
Mm-hmm.
We are all broken. So
We are. And you can say that kind of we is like probably way too general, but yeah, collectively, we're broken. And that is the war against the individual, you could say, maybe. Like trying to bring everybody into collectivism and the greater good and all of that, it leaves which is one of those eternal battles, the individual and the collective. And only one single being within themselves can find that balance point. Because like I think you know that we're part of a collective, and yet we stand as individuals. There's something uncompromising in that.
that's the amazing part of it all, that we're actually a collective and moving together. We're breathing and moving together, but we are also individuated.
Mm-hmm.
So that's those two, while they appear to be so far apart and like night and day, when you understand this riddle, you basically are in a better place, or
Mm-hmm.
you can, because it's not I cannot explain, you cannot explain it. You have to either understand it or not.
Mm-hmm.
You have to either to know it or you don't know it. There is no amount of esoterica that you can read, or
Perhaps that's
okay. Let me pour me some more wine, because I'm getting
okay. I'm having my coffee. Just waking up.
I'm gonna have some editing to do with this recording.
But let's go deeper into that in a moment. It's perhaps I just use the analogy of my letter to a friend, right? Of because we are in a collective, like the human psyche or the human consciousness, how we render the world, really. I mean, in a certain way, we are rendering the world to where it is. So you've got the masses, whether they're in a war zone or they're just struggling for survival, or they're the quote unquote Western world that has comforts and all-inclusive resorts, and they go on vacations and they think they're immune to what everybody else is experiencing. It's the collective. And to open a way, or to, you could say, bring light to a dark situation, is a function of consciousness, awareness. And it doesn't fit into the save the world scenario, because you and I are affected by what everybody else is doing, whether we like it or not. So how do we bring in a reality that's more suitable, let's say, to human expansion and human illumination, or the body of Christ, or however, whatever words one wants to look at it. Like, that function of the individual is truly powerful if it does what you just said, where it sees itself as individual, I am, and then there's a collective. And so sometimes I feel very moved to be very truthful with certain people, even if I know it's going to bring them discomfort, because I see they're locked into a mind control, or a program, or an indoctrination.
Yeah, and helping is helping, and holding the hand of another person, it's always a good thing, especially if it's made in the right moment and in the appropriate moment, because otherwise it's just a waste of your energy. But
Yeah, and see, a lot of people are stuck in that thought right now. Well, I'm just not going to bother because it's a waste of my energy. You know, I just see so many like nuances to the way our mind gets programmed.
actually, I think most of the time you shouldn't bother, because most of the time it is a waste of energy. But you always have to be on the look for those moments when you do have to get involved. So,
Right. So like, you're right, probably most of the time. I mean, I know this. I mean, there are people that there is not enough resonance with them for me to even bother. And yet my question always within me is, can I love them anyways? Can I just love them and not need, want, or expect anything from
I don't
them?
know. Are you not loving them, or
Well, yeah, but those
you
are,
you find yourself having a hard time loving those kind of people?
I wouldn't say a hard time. I would say that when you meet somebody that you resonate with, like, deeply, without words, it's much easier. You know, so
And of
there,
course, it's much easier. But what what has one thing to do with another? I mean, what are we
no,
talking about? Of course, it's
it's,
easier, but
yeah, I mean, there are moments when I have to check with myself. Can I just open up and be loved? I do. I wouldn't be honest if I said I didn't have to, like, check with myself.
I think you can open yourself and be love without even speaking with those people.
This is
So
true.
don't have
Sometimes
to.
it's easier when you're not speaking with them, right? You know, I guess it would be more like, I'm looking for a word. Just
There's also that thing that you don't really want to be the party crasher. If they're having a good time, and most people do have, even if they may deny it, but most people, or I think all people, have a good time with their whatever their level of awareness is. You don't really want to crash the party every
oh no, no.
other. Yeah, like you're not enlightened, you are stupid, you are do this, be like that. No, I mean, I think that's like counterproductive and also not the way to go forward. And so,
No, and it doesn't do any good. All it does is set up, contention and
yeah,
arguments. And that's something I,
they, they would not understand it anyway. They,
right.
they, it's gonna go like, past their awareness. So, but sometimes, and I'm not trying to project myself or yourself as higher beings or anything, but sometimes it's very heartwarming to look at some people in their having fun in their level of awareness, having fun and having a family and having a life. And it's something so wholesome with that too. So it's not their business to know these things. It's not their time. It's not their, they need to have fun and be, get vaccinated. And I know that's not necessarily good, but they're having fun. So who are you to?
Oh, I totally agree, Christian. I mean, I do, if you take somebody exactly as they present themselves, like just who they are, and nothing really makes me happier than seeing somebody content with their own life journey and incrementally, a lot of the time, making realizations. They might be little realizations, but or somebody that's been that I've worked with, let's say on a health problem, get out of their depression. And I almost jump with joy. I really do. And that's really beautiful for me. And that's in the point of like, um, it just makes me happy. It just does. That makes me happy when I see somebody happy or realize something or take control of, their own health and not go the medical route. And that happens, and I get that experience, so that's lovely. Like you said earlier, you can't lie to the universe. You can lie to yourself, you can lie to others. Can't lie. There's no lie in nature, as they say.
Yeah.
But you know this too. You know this very well. There are folks out there or people out there that make it very difficult for you to love them. And when that presents in your life, to surrender to the source code or the divine is the only way. You can't do it with your mind.
That's true, but ideally, the mind should be out of the way at some point anyway. So
Yeah. But it likes to kick in, doesn't it?
yeah, it does.
you know. But again, practice, right? Or awareness, and it becomes less demanding and less intrusive, and you can become more real. Words.
Do you think having having a conversation in Spanish would trigger something else from you?
Hmm. That's an odd out of left field question. Why did you ask me that? Because of your Romanian? Because if you speak in your native language,
Yeah,
you
because English is kind of, you know, I told you before, I'm not comfortable with English. I mean, it's it's a bottleneck. Not that any language in the end it's a bottleneck, but English itself is like,
Yeah, it's a very technical language if you want to put it back in those terms, right?
Yeah, I would much rather prefer a Latin language,
Yeah, yeah.
be it French or Romanian or Spanish or.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm sure I could, right? When I'm with a native Spanish speaker, I automatically go to Spanish. And yes, it's it has a fire to it, a passion to it, a depth to it that English doesn't have.
Yeah, isn't that right? I mean, you can 95% you can go there with English or Spanish, but there is that 5% that can only be really grasped with using Spanish, right? It's
Mhm.
when
Yeah,
you're in, yeah.
mostly I'm dealing with English speakers right now, my Mexican friends. Matter of fact,
Yeah,
I'm
but that wasn't the case in the early 2000s. That wasn't the case.
no, no, it's just the nature of my shop and my cafe and the people that come
I
by.
know, I know, I know.
But I do have my Mexican friends, and I love them too. I mean, there's something innocent too about the Mexican persona, if you will. There is something very childlike about them. And they tend to just say what's on their mind without like censoring themselves, which is refreshing.
Oh, that's a lot. That's like Eastern Europeans and
It's
Russians. That's what Eastern Europeans and Russians are known for, to
right.
speaking to directly. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very refreshing. So it's more authentic, you know. The the English mind has been um ah, I just see the mind the way it works through the English. You know, it's always there. It's always making excuses or I should be's or I shouldn't be's or if only's, if only this, if only that. It's an excuse.
No, it lacks the fire and the passion, and
Mhm.
while that can be you know, a, some for some literature podcast or a poetical thing, but it actually matters in spirituality. The fact that you cannot carry that passion with your words.
Mhm.
Something is always lacking. I mean, for me, but I philosophers always, like, not always, but they went about it for hundreds of years, and apparently philosophers are not necessarily very spiritual. Some of them are very spiritual, but not all of them. But they all agree that English is a pretty poor language for philosophy, and
Mhm.
German a lot better because
Yeah.
of the way German is spoken and the way you combine words, and you get those mile-long words that are combined from 5 noons, and you make that. But yeah, so there is a bottleneck with English, and it's not something new, I guess.
You want to say something in Romanian?
No, I don't.
No?
No.
I hardly ever hear you speak Romanian, only if I'm a bystander.
Well, why would I? Am I supposed to talk to myself? Or?
Yeah, sure, why not? I know. Oh, there we go. We come back to the whole topic that we began with is, the limits of language. Maybe if I ever get back to Romania, I'll learn how to speak it, and then you can speak to me in Romanian.
Uh, do you? I mean, it's not It's not an easy language because it has that side of it that's completely not Latin about it. So, but it can be done, and if you want to do it, I know you can do it, but maybe your energy is better spent in other areas or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna sit down and start studying Romanian, I'm not. I do find German extremely interesting. You speak German, right?
Well, no, I don't. I studied German, but you cannot say you speak a language that you're not using it daily or weekly, or if you studied in high school or whatever, that doesn't count because it's all gone by now. So
But it's there, if I guess if you ever
mm,
need, do you read in German?
no, I need to be immersed in a German only environment to be forced to relearn it and speak it, and then maybe in 1 year I'm gonna be okay. But otherwise, it's not happening because
Well, there's no need for it, so I get it, but, hmm. You said something earlier
I did. Did
that
not.
I don't
What did
think
I say?
you said, because I asked you, you were saying if we are going to come back and reincarnate, I would say in the 3D realm of human being and human body, that you're okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Are you not okay with that?
Yeah, but and just if you want to say why you're okay with it, because there's this whole like push of people that don't want to come back here and are looking for an escape hatch.
But where do they want to go? That's my question. Where do they want to go? They have something in mind.
I think they have some ideals, some of them, of a place where people don't kill animals and life exists without death and eternal realm of happiness.
Mm.
But is that a fantasy?
Well,
What you said.
and what are you doing in that you are born in that reality? Let's say another planet in another galaxy where that is possible. And what do you do? So everything is good. There is no evil, no harm, no challenge. And what do you do all day? How do you go by with your day?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a place that I particularly resonate with.
Me neither.
Yeah, you said something is like that you're getting the hang of living here and you're liking it because of the challenges it presents with you.
I like the game. Yeah, I enjoyed. I'm starting to enjoy the game and the
Mm.
challenges and the evil and the violence and wars. I enjoy them because we're playing.
Yeah, and has it ever been any different here? And I'll just call it 3D. I mean, there is an aspect of conscious human that it aspires or inspires to, let's just say, an evolutionary plane, but that doesn't translate to me as a utopia or a place.
No, and neither translates on you snapping your fingers and not being here. I mean,
Right.
I'm pretty sure we're supposed to evolve, and of course, wars and all this shit probably will not be here a number of, I don't know, X years from now, 1,000,000 or 10,000 or I don't know, but we're going to evolve into something different. Yeah, but just the act of you wanting to snap your fingers and be teleported out of here, I find that a little bit dubious, or I don't know what the word is. Like,
That's a good
really?
one. Like, could it
Yeah.
even be existed? Is that the game here? I don't think so. Right?
And also, do you remember your friend George Cavasilas?
Yeah, I do.
He always said like things like that, and that he wants to go to a world where a zebra is not hunted or mauled. Mauled is a word, right?
Hmm.
By a lion. And I
Hmm.
was always thinking like, and what's the lion supposed to do? Because the lion thrives on being a hunter. And how are you going about it? Okay, so the lion sits with the lamb. This is the even in a Christian or whatever, that's present everywhere. Okay, so the lion sits with the lamb and with the zebra, and nobody's hunting anybody. So ergo, in 1,000 years, the lion is not going to look like a lion because he doesn't need teeth and he doesn't need claws, and he's gonna all the species are gonna evolve into become one, grazing. Or I mean, do you understand what you want? That's my point. You don't see how awesome the lion is hunting, because and you are so bothered because the lion kills a zebra that you don't want to see. I mean, how fucked up is that? It's like,
Well, right
but
there, because
anyway,
this is what
yeah,
human does. Okay, it is it the word anthropomorphizes it. It puts its human consciousness into the animal,
yeah, that's pretty
and
fucked up.
it assumes a whole lot because of that. That's why, the thing with having the way that people have turned dogs and cats into baby children substitutes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I've asked that question, Christian, of people like, well, then tell me what give me a view of that world. Give me your personal view of that world. How does that work? And most people can't. Perhaps like if what I would probably, when you were talking, say that on a more ethereal, non-embodied, non-material plane, the lion can sit with the lamb. But in the physical reality, this is the way it is.
yeah, exactly.
And does maybe the zebra give itself to the lion? I mean, there's just so much we don't really perceive about how.
Now we do perceive, you and me and a lot of other people do perceive, but there are other people that like this oversimplified state of things, and even suffering and death, they do not understand it and they do not welcome it, and so they want to create this bleached, washed up kind of paradise that I personally want nothing to do with it.
Mhm.
When you wake up in the morning, do nothing all day, and you go to sleep, and there is no death, no suffering, and no challenge. And what's that? I mean, what's that?
Good questions. You know, I mean, it's never appealed to me either. So I don't have any way of answering that type of question because it doesn't make sense to me. Are there other realms and other possibilities? Certainly. And but I don't know what they are. You know what I mean? I don't know what they are. I don't know the full potentiality.
The irony is that these people that envision such twisted paradises, the irony is that they are the most that deep pain and suffering as as a teacher. So because as
What
you as you evolve and as you go to a lot of pain and suffering, you start to view it like a friend, like,
mhm.
so you don't push it away that easily. Not that you necessarily thrive on pain and suffering, but you see it for what it is. And usually people that need to go through pain and suffering are the ones that want to completely get rid of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, in a certain way, just off the top of my head, through observation of people, is like they're the ones that suffer the most because they're not living life as it is, confronting it as it is. They're wanting to avoid it. So they're in this continual state of really suffering at a low level that keeps them from living their life fully.
Yep.
You know, in a way, like what you said earlier, the people that are, lost in the matrix of control, and this has been brought up by other people that have been looking at things, is like they're happy, right? So to be
Well, they think they're happy, so they're happy in their way, for sure. They're happy in their way, yeah.
and they're living in a reality that actually there is very few crossover pieces between, let's say, a reality you're living in or I'm living in, and yet how many people that are like have seen the agenda on the earth and all the things that are going on, and where's real suffering? It's in the human causing suffering to other human. Maybe we should work on getting that right before we worry about the lion and the zebra.
Yeah.
The cruelty that I see is coming from human to human. And um, yeah, but what I'm really trying to say here is that, we keep human with the consciousness that a human being has. It's always looking outside itself. And then it wants to see life conform to what it thinks it should be, even though they don't. I mean, most people don't even go that far. They don't know, they're just unhappy. How many people that are awake are unhappy? I see it all the time. They're angry, they're blaming others, they're mean.
And they always think that if I only do this or if I only had that, then everything will be.
Yeah.
And it's like Alan Watts said, that thing, that quote unquote, that it's a moving target and you never actually get it. It's always, oh, if I only had that, then I can just settle and live and be happy. And then that it's elusive and you never have that ever.
Right. So what, yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, I learned that lesson a long time ago, when I had more money and more affluency and I could, anything I bought, like the happiness of that lasted like a day, It's like, no, I don't think I'm going to buy my way into material happiness, and then it just sets you up for the next thing. Now I need this.
It's never ending.
Yeah. And, that's just not buying things. It's like, oh, if I had the right partner, if I had the right living, accommodations, it just goes on and on and on. It's a constant state of, well, if I only had that, I'd be happy.
That's the promise that, a child is given. You go to school and you learn, and then you're gonna go to a good college, and then you're gonna meet a nice girl, and then you're gonna have a good job because you went to a good college and you have a good income, and then you're gonna be happy and kids, and it's all, but it's always in the future. You're gonna do this, and it's always in the future, and then the future never comes, never actually delivers that happiness. You're always one day shorter of reaching that. Yeah, it's pretty. It's. I mean, come on, it's funny. It's. I find it funny.
Mhm. Yeah. So this is a question that gets asked around my coffee table a lot. What is different about you or me or others that have basically seen the control programs, that they can see them and others can't? I've asked you this before, but it's just one of those kind of eternal questions that people keep asking.
I don't think there's anything different.
No?
Just, no, it's just maybe like, I mean, it's probably being smacked in the head a number of times does it at some point. So we've been smacked in the head more times than other people have been.
That's great. That's a very simple explanation and it works, right? Smacked in the head, like we've been
Yeah, like with a
they-
baseball bat. Yeah.
basically all our concepts, ideas, identification with our persona have been mangled and destroyed enough times. You go, this isn't it. There's something more, there's more to me than this identity that I have.
Yeah, other than that, I don't think, I mean, I'm sure there's nothing different. We're all pretty much have the same spark within us and the same. So it's just experience, either in this lifetime or other lifetimes, or this and that, or but
Well, also the other aspect is the undeniable contact, let's say, with the demonic realm or the realm of entities or interdimensionals, which very few people have, Christian.
very few people have what interaction with those entities,
Well, yeah, I was
because they used to, they like to come when you get to a certain part of your journey. They will always they will come no matter who you are. So even that is not special.
No, I don't mean it's being special. It's just, I think you just described it, and I'll reiterate it, is that, oh, I'm going to use terminology that's not probably exact, but when your body, when your being becomes more full of light or love, when you're more in a beingness, that's when I would think that the demonic realm is going to challenge you more. But
For sure.
you, from what I know, had that from a very young age.
Okay, that means what? I mean, what?
Well, no, I'm just, it's like, it's an experience that you had. I mean, so your incarnation, perhaps we can hypothesize that you were already seen or already known from the time you were born.
Also, there is also the fact that the environment where I came to be was a little bit infestated with those kind of entities. So I wouldn't take that much credit myself.
No, it is not
Hey,
about.
maybe I can take credit for the choice of incarnating in this body, but the environment itself where I grew up was not that fun. So
Yeah. I mean, it's not a matter of taking credit for it. It's an experience that very few have. And so your survival actually depended on you learning how to deal with these creatures.
Yeah, survival is a good word.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But that gives you, as a Christian, as an individual, a perspective on life that not too many people have. And I do know, because I know you, the challenges that presented you. They were not easy. I mean, it took
Yeah, but I
it,
had the feeling that it's not that uncommon because the whole this whole realm this whole existence is kind of infested at this point in time, so it's not something that's
yeah, but the
special. Yeah.
infestation has taken over so many. They don't even realize something in you saw and realized that this was your
That
particular.
is true that there are a lot of people that carry entities without realizing. That's very true.
Mhm.
But what's interesting that they're not usually necessarily progressing. So they carry an entity all their life and they don't go, full demonic or anything. So it's not like in some cases maybe they do, in some cases maybe they are aware, they get aware and they shake that and they get well, whatever. But mm,
It's not like I said again, it's not like taking credit for it, but your journey has given you insight into the unseen, and your own studies and everything that interests you, that I would say in many ways has value as people start waking up.
yeah, any information we can put together has value. So
Hmm. Yeah.
my
Uh,
only question is, I always ask myself, are how come all these people are not aware and they don't see what's around them? And that's my only
yeah, well, that's what I was saying earlier. It's like
question.
coming to the place of, they're actually in a different reality. The reality that as you see it, or maybe I see it, it doesn't have any crossover points. So what their reality is as real to them as perhaps our reality is real to us. They drink the Kool-Aid. I mean, they bought the story. They, you know, maybe find value in it. I really don't know. But it's one of those kind of perennial questions out there that people keep asking, what's the difference? Why can't they see? Why can't they see? You can put facts and, papers and the words of the would-be controllers, you can show them all these things and they still don't see it. Just the way it is, isn't it?
Just the way it is. Yeah.
And then maybe somewhere along the track of walking the way, somebody hears, somebody sees. Yeah, I mean, I wonder of all the people in the lectures that Alan Watts gave, of all the people that sat in his audience, how many really were able to integrate what he was sharing? Don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Those that were meant to did and those that were not meant to didn't.
Mhm. So, I don't know if I have anything else to talk about. I like talking to you though.
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to talk if we don't feel like talking.
No.
Maybe
Well,
one day we just record a blank,
a blank
painted.
slate, right? I don't know, maybe fill it in with some really nice music, but, well, that's in the recording right now, and, no, I find it interesting the way you express, even if it's in not your native tongue and you have an issue with it. You do have a way of expressing that I appreciate, and I think a few people do.
Thank you.
Mhm.